drilling on the Oregon coast? And the answer was, you've got to be kidding me. And on my watch, that's going to be the policy we're going to have for protecting the Oregon coast. And that's what Oregonians are saying today specifically. In fact, Oregonians are lining up to make their opposition known by protesting this proposal outside a meeting today by the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management in Salem. We have a picturesque coastline that looks right out of a storybook. 362 miles that support 22,000 jobs and a $2 billion economy. Tourism, fishing, recreation, all dependent on a healthy Pacific Ocean. Our coast is entirely publicly owned, and it's been protected from oil and gas drilling for decades. That's in large part because we learned the harsh lessons of the past. In 1999, the freighter New Carissa ran aground off the coast of Coos Bay. The ship split apart, spilling tens of thousands of gallons of oil and diesel that covered our beaches in oil and tar balls. Some of that toxic mess remained on our beaches for almost a decade, costing tens of millions of dollars to clean up. Now, the thousands of fishermen, recreation business owners, and guides shouldn't have to go to bed at night hoping there's not a spill or an explosion or risk their livelihoods on the goodwill of oil and gas executives. To make matters even more ominous, just days before announcing his intention to open up our entire coastline to oil and gas drilling, Secretary Zinke reversed basic safety standards for workers that were adopted after the Deepwater Horizon disaster. So what you got here is a double whammy. First, gut safety standards for oil and gas workers on offshore rigs. That's right, gut them. Gut the safety standards for oil and gas workers. Second, increase the probability these workers are going to be put in danger in the first place. As I said on Saturday on my way to those town meetings, the people of my state, Oregonians, overwhelmingly do not want to be a part of any of this. Secretary Zinke went ahead and made a wrong decision with respect to coastal drilling without any input from Oregon. Our commercial and recreational fisheries industry, hardworking families that depend on healthy fishing stocks, had no seat at the table. In fact, an entire West Coast industry was left out of whatever discussions happened between the oil executives and the Trump officials in the back room of the Interior Department. One day after his decision, Mr. Zinke met with the Republican governor of Florida. And my colleague who will speak next has been eloquent on that point, describing the plan as a threat to the environment and the economy of his home state. Now, that was enough for Secretary Zinke to let Florida off the hook. But there's been an outcry of opposition from the governors of 15 coastal states, including mine. We've raised the very same environmental and economic concerns. Yet Secretary Zinke seems deaf to our voices. I guess the only voice that is really relevant is that of a Republican governor. That, Mr. President, is about as nakedly political as it gets around Washington. A big gift for the oil and gas companies, but one that poses an enormous danger to the economies and environment of local communities along our coast. Finally, the decision doesn't make sense in terms of energy policy. Our country is more energy secure now than ever. The International Energy Agency reports that within 10 years, the United States will move from being a net importer of oil to a net exporter. So this scheme of Secretary Zinke to expand offshore drilling is going to benefit, let's acknowledge that, a handful of big oil interests, and then leave hardworking fishing families and coastal business owners to pick up the bill. That is not how we do things on our West Coast, the lasting economic uncertainty and ultimate environmental degradation is not worth it. And today, on behalf of the people of Oregon, I urge Secretary Zinke to rescind his proposal. With that, I yield the floor, and I thank my colleague from Florida for his courtesy.
Mr. President.
Senator from Florida.
And I ask consent that I make an announcement and then defer to Senator King, and then it come back to me for my statement about offshore drilling.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, just a few minutes ago, the largest rocket since the moon program